The most powerful warship on Earth is loose in the Atlantic. The German battleship Bismarck wields the firepower to crush any ship in the Allied fleet. The British must call on courageous airmen, flying outdated Swordfish biplanes to help hunt down Hitler's superweapon and pound her into oblivion. May 26, 1941. For 30 hours, ships and planes of the British home fleet have scoured the North Atlantic for some sign of battleship Bismarck. But Bismarck has simply disappeared.
We're very despondent. Everybody, and I mean everybody, from the lowest boy to the highest officer on board was in a terrible state because we had lost the Bismarck.
Aboard Bismarck, the crew hopes by morning to be within 200 miles of France, waters controlled by the German Luftwaffe. Desperate to re-establish contact, Fleet Admiral Tovey dispatches Catalina flying boats, or PBYs. They're American aircraft, lend-leased to Britain to support the war effort. Their incredible 2,500-mile range makes them ideal for long-distance searches. They comb the seas for hours. Then, at 10:30 a.m., 36 hours after losing her, a PBY crew spots a dull black shape moving across the water. Bismarck has been found. Bismarck has been spotted here, 700 miles from the coast of France. Admiral Tovey's battle group is here, 130 miles directly north. Tovey must slow Bismarck down to get in range to strike. In perfect position for this mission is a task group steaming in from the south, known as Force H, which includes the aircraft carrier Ark Royal. May 26, 1941, 7 p.m., 8 hours after finding Bismarck, 15 Swordfish torpedo bombers from Ark Royal speed toward the German battleship. Lieutenant John Jock Moffat pilots one of the ferry Swordfish.
We were told to go in there and do our best and get as many torpedoes into her as we could possibly do.
Moffat and his crew break through the clouds and descend on their target.
My first impression of the Bismarck, when I saw it on my starboard side about 2 miles away, it was really awesome.
Moffat's flight of 3 Swordfish close in at 115 miles per hour.
6,000 feet, all of a sudden, all hell was let loose.
Bismarck's anti-aircraft gunners desperately filled the sky with flak.
I had no doubts about what was going to happen, and I was scared stiff. I thought the only way I could survive was to get as low as possible. And the nearer I got to the ship, I was hoping that wouldn't be able to get their guns down low enough.
Moffat closes to within 2,000 yards and prepares to launch.
There was a voice suddenly says to me, "Not yet, Jock." And this was my observer. And I thought, what's happening? And he kept saying it, "Not yet, not yet." And then out of the corner of my eye, I happened to turn slightly to the right, and there was a friend of mine hanging outside this aircraft with his bottom in the air, but I don't know how he did it, in fact. But he was leaning right outside the aircraft with his head right underneath the fuselage. And he was shouting, "Not yet, not yet." And then it dawned on me why.
In these high seas, Moffat's observer knows that if the torpedo hits the top of a wave, the impact could veer it off course. With only one torpedo, he has to make the shot count. He hangs upside down, judging the wave height, waiting for the right moment.
If you could release the torpedo that went into a trough of a wave, then you had a chance. And that's when he said to me, "Let her go." And when I said, "Let her go," he said, "Jock, we've got a runner."
Bismarck makes a hard turn to port to avoid the torpedo. It's a fatal miscalculation. 51 seconds after Moffett launches, the deadly missile strikes Bismarck's port side on her stern. The violent explosion tears a huge hole in the hull. Air power has demonstrated its supremacy over the mightiest warship. The British surface fleet closes in for the killing blow.
Finally, there's an opportunity to avenge the Hood, and the British go into action confident that they can achieve this.
On King George V, Fleet Admiral John Tovey plots his tactics. His plan? Force the cornered German ship to divide its fire against multiple targets. Then turn his ship's broadside, unleashing massive firepower. Battleships Rodney and King George V speed to within 12 miles of Bismarck. At 8:47 a.m., Rodney's 16-inch guns fire. Then King George V. Shells rain down around Bismarck. The British crew stuff cotton in their ears to deaden the sound. Their throats sting as they breathe in the cordite fumes after each salvo. The desperate German battleship strikes back.
Lutyens' first act was to open fire on the aged battleship Rodney. It's been suggested by some that, like Hood, he saw her as an older ship and thought, perhaps weaker, he could take her out and lessen the odds against him.
Both sides miss their targets. With each salvo, the gunners adjust their rangefinders. With her rudders jammed, Bismarck can't maneuver. She's an easy target. Rodney scores the first hit on Bismarck at 9:02 a.m. The British have the range and let loose with everything they have.
We were firing broadside. We were firing 10 shells at a time. 10 14-inch shells were going all over. And that's a hell of a lot of shells for one ship to take.
Two British cruisers, Norfolk and Dorsetshire, join the fight. Bismarck is being pummeled from all sides.
Ich kann nur von dem Endkampf erzählen, dass wir nur ab und zu
Shell splinters rained through the air ducts that supplied our fresh air. The shells were hitting us fast, violently.
Then, King George V's 14-inch guns make a critical hit.
in dem Moment ging eine Granate.
A shell hit the gunnery control and also the main battery. The men screamed because of all the sulfur steam. It scalded them terribly.
Bismarck is now a slaughterhouse. The huge dreadnought fires a final salvo, but at 9:31 a.m., her mighty guns fall silent.
Flames fill the cockpit. The aircraft plummets in a wild spin. But time and again, the pilot of a P-47 Thunderbolt pulls out and keeps on fighting. June 26, 1943. 48 P-47 Thunderbolts of the 56th Fighter Group breached the airspace of occupied France over Le Triport. Their mission? Protect B-17 bombers on their return trip to England. A young fighter pilot named Robert S. Johnson flies Blue 4 at the tail end of the formation. Like many of the 56th, he's new to combat.
Robert S. Johnson was among the earliest pilots assigned to the 56th Group. He entered combat flying his first missions in the spring of 1943.
15 miles inland, Johnson spots something at 5 o'clock high. The tiny specks are directly behind him. It's a formation of 16 Focke-Wulf 190s, Germany's most heavily armed single-engine fighter. Adrenaline surges. The young pilot calls out the bandits over the radio. The Germans draw closer. Johnson tries the radio again, but before he completes the transmission, the enemy is upon him.
They just about shot him to pieces. His canopy was perforated. He had an explosive shell explode nearby. It left steel shards in his leg.
Metal is ripped. Plexiglass shatters. A machine gun bullet grazes the tip of his nose. Johnson's P-47 plummets from 20,000 feet, spinning out of control. The aircraft shudders and screams. Flames lick exposed skin and swirl inside the cockpit.
Most of his instruments were destroyed or damaged. And at that point, Johnson said that he was pretty much resigned to dying.
Johnson kicks left rudder to level the wings and pulls back on the stick. Incredibly, the aircraft pulls out of its death spiral, but it may not stay airborne for long.
The canopy would only open about 6 inches and it jammed. He can't get out of the aircraft.
Johnson tries to force it open, bracing his feet on the instrument panel. Nothing. He stands, trying to squeeze through the broken canopy frame, but his parachute snags.
He began to take stock of the situation. He noticed that the smoke had abated in the cockpit. The fire had gone out from the engine.
Through blood-reddened eyes, Johnson scans the skies for any sign of friendly aircraft. He's completely alone. Again, he tries to pound the canopy frame loose. Nothing. The Thunderbolt may prove to be his coffin.
He's in a glide at that point, slowly losing altitude, but still up there pretty good. And he can't get out of the aircraft.
Then, at his 4 o'clock, a single aircraft comes into view. It's a yellow-nosed Focke-Wulf 190. His heart sinks.
He was intercepted by the German ace, Egon Meyer, who by then had 3.5 years of combat, and with 66 kills to his credit as of that date, Meyer was a potent, deadly adversary.
Egon Meyer closes in for an easy kill. Robert Johnson's only hope for survival rests with his plane. The Thunderbolt's reputation for ruggedness will be put to the test as never before.
He cannot get out of the way. He cannot outrun it. He is at the mercy of an enemy who almost surely has no mercy in him.
In a futile attempt to postpone the inevitable, Johnson banks to the right. The the 190 easily keeps pace. Johnson is helpless. The FW-190's nose lights up as Meyer squeezes the trigger. A hail of 7.9mm machine gun bullets pummel the jug. The din is overpowering. Johnson's only defensive maneuver is to alternately hit the rudder pedals to throw off the German's aim. The move causes Meyer to overshoot. For a fleeting moment, Johnson has the upper hand. He fires a burst from his 50 cals.
Can't really see him. Canopy's covered with oil and hydraulic fluid all over the place. He's got fluid in his eyes are burning. But it made him feel good that he could just fire off a couple rounds and show that German pilot that, hey, I can still fight a little bit.
Meyer continues a long, slow circle. Johnson can only watch. The 190 effortlessly banks in behind him. But to Johnson's amazement, the 190 pulls up on his wing.
Johnson figured that at that point, well, maybe this German is out of ammunition and he's just looking me over.
Egon Meyer eyes the battered jug, shakes his head in disbelief, then acknowledges the American pilot with a wave.
Bob gave a sigh of relief. He said, okay, the German's letting me go.
But Meyer doesn't break off.
Johnson realized, oh my God, he's not finished with me yet.
The P-47 is punished by another rain of lead. The Thunderbolt shudders under the impact of another burst. Incredulous, Meyer pulls up on Johnson's wing for a second time. The German is determined to finish him off.
He just starts raking him over, and the German pilot starts generally hitting his rudder, so he's raking 30 caliber fire from wingtip to wingtip.
But the designers at Republic had done their job well. The airplane's sturdy aluminum and steel framework shrugs off yet a third salvo. The Focke-Wulf again pulls abreast of the Thunderbolt.
The German finally really, no kidding, was out of ammunition.
Meyer, a top German ace, has been denied his 67th kill. He rocks his wings in salute and banks away. The sky is once again empty as Johnson nurses the battered P-47 over the English Channel. The Thunderbolt is carrying him home.
But when he landed the plane, he started counting the bullet holes. By the time he reached 200 without even moving around the aircraft, he gave up.
Robert S. Johnson went on to become America's second highest scoring ace of the European theater, with 27 kills in the P-47 Thunderbolt. October 12, 1944. A squadron of red-tailed P-51 Mustangs of the 332nd Fighter Group soar over Lake Balaton in southern Hungary. After completing an escort mission, they're returning to base in Italy. Among them is Captain Wendell Pruitt and his wingman, Lieutenant Lee Archer, the gruesome twosome, as they are known. As they reach the southern tip of the lake, tiny specks appear on the horizon, a swarm of German Me-109s.
There were more German airplanes in the air than I've ever seen before. Kind of made a little side decision, well, this might be it.
Pruitt, Archer, and the rest of the Red Tails don't flinch.
We didn't run or anything like that. We said, okay, they're up here. There's as many of them as it is of us. So we'll take them on.
Throttles firewall, machine guns armed, the Tuskegee Airmen rip through the German formation. The The skies above Lake Balaton explode with the roar of piston engines and the staccato burst of machine guns and cannon. With the battle raging all around them, Pruitt and Archer select a target. They'll make a head-on pass with a German 109 just off their nose. The gruesome twosome streak past the enemy. Archer drops in trail of Pruitt as they roll left in pursuit.
He'd pull ahead and I'd pull right behind him and try to stay on him. He was a heck of a pilot, and just staying there sometimes was a full-time job.
Pruitt's tight turn takes the German by surprise. The P-51's 450 cals open up. The pilot leaps from the smoking plane. But just as they pull away from their first victory, another 109 roars in from 3 o'clock high.
He pulled in to take a side shot at Pruitt, and Pruitt slowed down. I guess he chopped throttle or something. I know I did.
Pruitt's quick reaction saves him from certain death. Reducing his speed causes the 109 to overshoot to the side. With careful maneuvering, he can flush the 109 out in front of him. Archer lets his lead do the work. Pruitt manages to force the 109 out. But suddenly, another German bursts into the fight.
And the other one came in to get on Pruitt's tail, not realizing that my only job at that time was to protect Pruitt's tail. So it's the ME-109, there's Pruitt shooting at him, there's the ME-109 shooting at Pruitt, and there's me shooting at him.
Archer expertly leads his mark and fires. The 109 tumbles, smoke belching from the wounded plane. Seconds later, Pruitt fires a long burst into his 109. Another victory for the gruesome twosome. But they're not done yet. They dive back into the furball.
He made a screaming turn back to where all the other aircraft was. And I really wasn't sure that was a great idea at the time.
Pruitt instantly spots a target amidst the chaos. Another 109 is positioned just off his nose.
As we got into the other airplanes, another one picked him up, and he made a head-on pass on him with me peppering behind him.
Pruitt and Archer roar past the German, guns blazing. Archer follows Pruitt through another crushing left turn.
I guess I was lagging a little bit. Another one came right in behind him. They were suckers. They didn't see the second airplane 1,000 yards behind, armed to the teeth.
Again, Archer's 50 cals spark to life. Archer speeds past the wreckage. He's now one victory away from making ace, with plenty of targets to choose from.
At that time, there were so many airplanes in the air that I say somehow I lost Wendell O. Pruitt, but it's not true. I saw an aircraft that I could take on who was coming my way.
Archer is here. The 109 is here. Archer can easily initiate a head-on pass by banking to the right. In an instant, the adversaries merge. They break into each other and begin circling. Whoever pulls tighter will win the contest. The 109 inches closer to firing position. The German's heavy cannon is poised to unleash lethal retribution on Lee Archer. The American has seconds to react. He spots a second 109.
I look out to the right, and I see this guy all by himself, a pigeon, and he was flying straight and level.
Archer brakes instinctively.
Since then, a lot of people say, well, when you turned on this second aircraft, what about the guy behind you? I forgot all about him. I think that's how I got my left wing hit. And it must have been a cannon shot because it had a hole in the wing, huge, under the bottom.
Archer latches onto his target. The German counters by pitching over into a steep dive. He's headed for the safety of an air base. But the maneuver fails. The determined Mustang pilot will not be denied his 5th victory. Lee Archer opens the throttle and pulls away. He's bested the German, but he's broken formation with his flight lead, Wendell Pruitt, strictly forbidden for a wingman.
I guess the only thing was my mind, how do I explain to Pruitt how this happened?
Now alone and low on ammo, he heads back to base. Archer's 3 victories on October 12th bring his war total to 5. It is an historic achievement made by a skilled and aggressive fighter pilot. The Tuskegee Airmen now have an ace.